I clutch grandmother Lila's hand-knit scarf, rubbing the soft yarn between my fingers as if somehow the texture might summon her spirit back. The funeral parlor smells like artificial flowers and furniture polish. I've tucked myself away in the corner chair, watching my family perform their version of grief. Mom dabbles at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, letting out occasional theatrical sobs that echo against the mahogany paneling. Every few minutes, she slips to the bathroom, emerging with freshly applied mascara and her phone clutched in her perfectly manicured hand. The soft click of her camera captures her sorrowful pose beside the gleaming casket for her social media followers. "This lighting is terrible," she mutters, reviewing the photos. Dad stands near the entrance, his voice rising as he argues with the funeral director. "These charges are completely unreasonable," he snaps, tapping furiously at his phone screen. "My stock alerts don't stop just because—" He glances around, lowering his voice. "Just because we're having a family situation. A family situation. That's what death is to my father, an inconvenient interruption to checking his investment portfolio." My brother Cole slouches in a chair across the room, head bent over his phone, thumb scrolling endlessly. The glow from his cryptocurrency app reflects in his glasses. He hasn't looked up in 20 minutes, not even when distant relatives approach to offer condolences. I close my eyes and remember the weekends at Grandma and Grandpa's house. The smell of cinnamon rolls on Sunday mornings. Grandpa Walter teaching me to change the oil in his first delivery truck, his hands steady as they guided mine. "Hadley girl," he'd say. "Knowing how things work matters more than knowing how to buy new ones." A tear slides down my cheek. A real one. Later, we gather in Aaron Feldman's office. The family attorney's wood-paneled sanctuary lined with leather-bound law books and the faint scent of pipe tobacco. Mom immediately claims the central chair, arranging herself like she's posing for a portrait. Dad stands behind her, hands on the chair back, assuming the position of authority. "I was thinking we could list the Harbor House immediately," Mom says, inspecting her nails. "The market's peaking, and that view will fetch a premium. The boat should sell quickly too," Dad adds, nodding. "And those antiques." "Let's not get ahead of ourselves," Cole interrupts, actually looking up from his phone. "I've already got buyers interested in Grandpa's truck fleet. My startup could use that capital." Aaron clears his throat, silencing the vultures. He looks at me briefly, something unreadable flickering across his face. He pulls out a thick document, placing it deliberately on his desk. "As executor of Walter and Lila Monroe's estate," he begins, his voice formal, "I'm required to read their final wishes exactly as written." My family leans forward expectantly. Aaron adjusts his glasses and begins reading, his tone measured and precise. Legal phrases wash over us until he reaches the critical line. He pauses, takes a breath, and continues. "I hereby bequeath my entire estate, valued at approximately $31.5 million, to my granddaughter, Hadley Elizabeth Martin." The silence that follows feels like the moment before a storm. I blink, certain I've misheard. "The entire estate?" Dad repeats, his voice dangerously quiet. "There must be some mistake," Mom says, her social media smile vanishing. Cole stands abruptly. "What did you do?" he demands, glaring at me. "How did you manipulate them?" The accusation stings worse than if he'd slapped me. "I didn't." My voice catches. "I had no idea." Aaron raises his hand for silence, then reaches for his computer. "Walter and Lila anticipated your reaction. They prepared this." He turns the screen toward us. Grandma and Grandpa appear, sitting together on their porch swing. They look tired but resolute. "If you're watching this," Grandpa begins, "then our decision has come as a shock to some of you." Grandma's gentle voice continues. "Gregory, Serena, Cole, we've watched how you speak about us when you think we're not listening, how you plan for our money while we're still living." My throat tightens as memories flood back. Being dropped off at their modest-looking home, which apparently concealed millions while my parents attended networking events. Teenage me helping Grandpa maintain his small fleet of trucks that were apparently the foundation of a shipping empire. Grandma teaching me to bake, to garden, to live with purpose rather than pretense. "Hadley is the only one who ever loved us for ourselves," Grandma says, her eyes welling, "not for what we could give her." The video ends. Aaron closes his laptop with quiet finality. In the parking lot, Dad corners me against my car, his breath hot on my face. "You'll transfer control to me tomorrow," he says, voice low and dangerous. "You can keep 12%. "Darling," Mom coos, appearing at his side, Her concern as manufactured as her grief. This kind of money requires experience to manage. You simply aren't equipped. Cole looms behind them. Remember what family loyalty means, Hadley. Remember who takes care of who. I grip my keys tightly, feeling the metal bite into my palm. I need time to think. I manage, voice trembling but firm. Dad's face darkens. Remember who owns your apartment building, Hadley. Remember who can make one phone call and leave you homeless. They walk away, a united front of entitlement. I stand frozen, keys digging into my skin, the weight of $31 million, and my grandparents' trust pressing down on me like a physical force. That night I pace my tiny studio apartment, panic clawing at my chest. Everything I own fits in this room. My life as a school counselor barely covers rent. I have no savings, no backup plan. I sink onto my bed, fingers still clutching Grandma's scarf, when a pounding at my door makes me jump. Management inspection, a gruff voice calls. My phone rings. Aaron's name flashes on the screen. Hadley, he says urgently when I answer. They're planning to lock you out. It's illegal, but they might try. You need to leave. Now. Tears blur my vision as I throw essential items into a backpack, my hands shaking so badly I can barely zip it closed. I never imagined that inheriting a fortune would leave me feeling more vulnerable than I've ever been in my life. But as I grab Grandma's scarf and wrap it around my neck, her voice seems to whisper in my ear. Stand your ground, Hadley girl. Some things are worth fighting for. The following day, rain pelts the windshield as I pull up to Grandma and Grandpa's Gig Harbor home. The sprawling craftsman sits back from the road, wrapped in cedar and stone, modest in design, despite its waterfront location. Nothing like the gleaming modern mansions that have sprung up around it over the decades. I sit in the car, watching raindrops race down the glass, my heart hammering against my ribs. 24 hours ago, I was fleeing my apartment with a backpack of essentials. Now I'm about to enter a house worth millions that somehow belongs to me. The front door opens before I reach it. Miguel Alvarez stands in the entryway, his weathered face solemn. For 15 years, he's managed this estate, becoming more family than employee. Miss Hadley. His voice breaks slightly. Welcome home. I step inside, dripping onto the worn oak floors. The house smells like lemon oil and cinnamon, just as it always has. Your grandmother asked me to give you this. Miguel extends a small brass key. If things went this way. He leads me to Grandpa's study, where a heavy antique desk dominates the room. The key fits a bottom drawer, revealing a weathered leather journal bound with a faded ribbon. She said you would understand when the time came. Miguel squeezes my shoulder before leaving me alone. I curl into Grandpa's reading chair by the fireplace, tucking my feet beneath me as I open the journal. The first entry is dated 10 years ago. Gregory came today asking for another loan. Claimed his investment was guaranteed to triple within months. When Walter hesitated, he reminded us how expensive Cole's college tuition is becoming. We wrote the check. Walter suspects we won't see that money again. My stomach tightens. I flip forward several months. Gregory hasn't mentioned repayment. When I asked, he acted as if I'd forgotten he'd already repaid us. Walter says to let it go. It's only money, he says, but it's the pattern that worries me. I turn page after page, my fingers trembling. Serena brought designers to help update the house today. They measured rooms and took photos while she pointed out how tired everything looks. Later, I caught her photographing the silver service from Walter's mother. She jumped when she saw me, saying she wanted inspiration for her anniversary party decorations. The door creaks open. June Porter, housekeeper for over 20 years, enters with a tray of tea. Her eyes are red-rimmed. You're reading Mrs. Lila's journals. It's not a question. Did you know about all this? I gesture to the open pages. June sets down the tray. I kept records of my own. Mrs. Lila asked me to. She disappears, returning with a banker's box. Financial documents. Loan agreements your father never repaid. Startup proposals from your brother, all defaulted. She places a thick folder on top. And these are copies of property transfer documents your mother tried to get Miss Lila to sign 3 months before she passed. Claimed they were updated estate plans recommended by their advisor. I spread the papers across the desk. Thousands of dollars funneled to Dad's failing ventures. Cole's repeated requests for seed money that never produced results. Mom's attempted property transfers that would have quietly moved ownership before death. They were bleeding them dry. I whisper, For years, June confirms. Your grandfather insisted on believing the best of his son. Your grandmother was more clear-eyed. I find an entry from Christmas 2 years ago. Cole had too much wine at dinner. When he thought Walter and I had gone to bed, I overheard him telling Gregory, "When the old folks die, we're set for life." Gregory laughed. Our grandson laughed about our deaths. My throat constricts. I remember that Christmas I'd worked double shifts to afford the train ticket home. Mom complained about my shabby sweater at dinner while Cole showed off his new designer watch. The doorbell rings. June glances at her watch. That'll be Mr. Shaw and Miss Park. Marcus Shaw enters first, carrying a leather portfolio, his normally composed face tense. As Grandpa's financial advisor for 20 years, he's the only one who truly understood the extent of their wealth. "Hadley," he says, taking my hand, "I've brought the complete portfolio. You need to understand what you're protecting." Evelyn Park follows, her silver hair pulled back severely. Grandpa's business partner at Summit Freight for 3 decades, she carries a stack of company records. Summit employees are reporting strange visitors, asking questions about shipping routes and client contracts. She says without preamble, "Someone's digging." Aaron arrives last, legal documents tucked under his arm. "I've prepared preliminary protective measures. We need to move quickly." They gather around the dining room table, forming a circle of protection I never knew I'd need. Each brings a piece of the puzzle, revealing the empire my grandparents built and how methodically my family has tried to dismantle it. My phone buzzes. Dad's voice fills the speaker when I play the voicemail. "You have no idea what you're up against, Hadley. This can still end with everyone happy, or it can get very ugly. Your choice." While we're strategizing, the doorbell rings again. A courier delivers a manila envelope with no return address. Inside are my childhood photos with faces crossed out in red marker. "This is escalating quickly," Aaron says, bagging the photos as evidence. Summit employees are reporting strange visitors. Your brother has started posting about your mental instability online. Your mother has called your workplace with family concerns. My hand shakes as I set down my teacup. What do we do? "File for emergency protective orders," Aaron says, pulling out prepared documents. "The evidence is overwhelming. Judge Carter will approve them immediately." "There's something else," June says. "Miss Lila set aside the cottage in Port Orchard in a separate trust. It's not part of the main estate. Somewhere safe if you need it." I think about my students, the kids who count on me showing up every day. I'll need to take a leave of absence from work. The weight of it all suddenly crashes down. I walk to Grandma's garden, now glistening with rain. Her roses will bloom soon without her to see them. "I never wanted their money," I whisper to the wet earth. "I just wanted them." But as I look back at the house where my unexpected allies wait, I realize Grandma and Grandpa gave me more than money. They gave me the truth, and people who will help me protect it. 3 days into my new old home, my morning coffee goes cold as I stare at the newspaper. The headline glares back. "Family Contest Suspicious Inheritance." My hand trembles as I scan quotes from unnamed family sources, claiming Grandma Lila suffered from diminished capacity during her final months. "They're really doing this," I whisper to the empty kitchen. My phone buzzes with a text from Aaron. Gregory filed an emergency petition with the court, claims Lila was mentally incompetent when signing the will. "Call me," claims Lila. Before I can dial, a notification pops up. Mom's smiling face fills my screen, a screenshot from the local morning show where she dabbed theatrical tears while describing her concerns about elder exploitation. The caption reads, "Heartbroken daughter speaks out about suspected elder abuse." The walls of Grandpa and Grandma's house, my house, now seem to press inward. I set the phone down, breathing deeply the way I tell my students to when anxiety overwhelms them. Miguel knocks gently before entering. "Miss Hadley, you should see this." He hands me his tablet, open to a social media page Cole created overnight. "Justice for the Monroe Legacy." Already 400 followers. People I've known my entire life commenting about their concerns. "Summit Freight called," Miguel adds, his weathered face solemn. 3 clients received anonymous letters, questioning the company's stability. They're attacking from every angle. My voice sounds distant, unfamiliar. "Your grandfather anticipated this." Miguel gestures toward the study. "Perhaps it's time you saw his business journals." In the oak-paneled study that still smells faintly of Grandpa's pipe tobacco, I open the leather-bound journal from 1987, the year Summit Freight nearly went bankrupt during the recession. Grandpa's neat handwriting fills the page. Third bank rejected our loan application today. Lila says we should sell the house. I won't risk our home. When everyone says you'll fail, that's when you find your backbone. Tomorrow I'll speak with the drivers about a temporary pay arrangement until we weather this. I touch the page, feeling the indentations his pen made decades ago. The words blur as tears well up. There's more, Miguel says, opening Grandma's desk drawer. He removes a small USB drive. Mrs. Lila installed security cameras last year. She never told your parents. On Grandpa's computer, I watch footage dated the day of the funeral. Dad and Cole, methodically moving through rooms, checking values on their phones, wrapping smaller items in their coats before leaving. Mom photographing silver and antiques, wiping away fake tears between shots. They were stealing, I whisper, while pretending to grieve. Mrs. Lila knew. She kept records of everything. The security system chimes, interrupting us. Miguel checks his phone. They're at the gates, all of them. My heart hammers against my ribs as I move to the front window. 3 vehicles idle outside the wrought iron gates. Dad's Mercedes, Mom's Range Rover, Cole's Tesla. Should I call Aaron? Miguel asks. I straighten my shoulders, remembering Grandpa's words. Finding your backbone. No, I'll handle this. The intercom crackles. Dad's voice, professional and commanding. Hadley, open the gates. We're here to collect family heirlooms that rightfully belong to all of us. I press the speaker button. I'll meet you at the front steps. Summer sun beats down as I stand alone on the wide limestone steps. The gates swing open automatically. I want witnesses to whatever happens next. Dad strides forward first, briefcase in hand, expression controlled but eyes flickering with calculation. Mom follows, camera ready in a tasteful black dress, while Cole lingers slightly behind, shoulders hunched. This has gone far enough. Dad announces, projecting his voice like he's addressing a boardroom. We're here for great-grandmother's silver service and the Tiffany lamps to start. For that. Those items were specifically listed in the will as part of my inheritance, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. A will we're contesting, Mom interjects, her practiced concern slipping. Sweetheart, you're in over your head. Let us help manage things until the courts sort this out. Cole steps forward suddenly, attempting to move past me up the stairs. I'll just grab my stuff from my old room while we're... He freezes as lights flash and a low hum fills the air. The new security system Aaron installed activates, red indicator lights blinking along the perimeter. Trespassing prevention measures, I explain quietly. The property is now monitored by multiple cameras streaming to a secure server. Mom gasps dramatically, clutching her chest before slowly sinking onto the manicured lawn. My own daughter, treating family like criminals. The crunch of gravel announces new arrivals. Miguel approaches from the side of the house, carrying a leather binder. Miss Hadley, I've brought the complete inventory of household items as you requested, with provenance documentation. Miss Hadley? June's compact figure appears next, her gray hair neatly pinned back. I witnessed them taking items after the service. She announces loudly. I've provided a sworn statement to Mr. Feldman. A silver sedan pulls up behind my family's vehicles. Evelyn Park, Grandpa's business partner of 30 years, steps out, followed by 5 longtime Summit employees in company polos. We came to show support. Evelyn says clearly. Walter and Lila built this company on integrity. We stand by their wishes. Aaron's BMW glides to a stop next. He exits with a leather portfolio. Ah, perfect timing. I was just coming to update Hadley on the restraining order, but since you're all here, I can serve these papers directly. Dad's face reddens as Aaron approaches with documents. Mom remains sprawled on the grass, her theatrical collapse forgotten as she watches the growing audience with calculation in her eyes. From the street, a cluster of people gather, neighbors, friends of my grandparents, watching quietly, finding strength. I didn't know I possessed. I step forward. This ends today. My voice carries across the suddenly silent driveway. Every word spoken here is being recorded, every action filmed. You've shown who you really are, and now others are seeing it too. A news van slows at the property entrance, logo visible on its side. Who called the media? Dad snarls, his composure cracking. We did, calls Mrs. Henderson from across the street, waving her cell phone. Neighborhood watch. We look after our own. For the first time since Grandma's death, I see real fear in my father's eyes. He glances at the growing crowd, the cameras, the papers in Aaron's hand. This isn't over, he mutters, but he's already retreating toward his car. Mom miraculously recovers from her fainting spell, hurrying after him with one worried glance at the news van. Cole hesitates, looking at me directly for the first time. Something unreadable crosses his face before he follows our parents. That night, I stand alone in my grandparents' bedroom, untouched since their passing. Grandma's knitting basket sits beside her reading chair, needles protruding from an unfinished blue scarf. Grandpa's reading glasses rest on his nightstand, folded neatly beside a half-read mystery novel. The grief I've been holding at bay crashes over me. I sink onto the edge of their bed, clutching one of Grandma's knitting needles. I don't know if I can be what they believed I could be, I whisper into the emptiness. Dawn finds me still there, watching light gradually filter through lace curtains. Grandma made herself. Something settles in my chest, not peace exactly, but resolve. Later that morning, the team gathers in Grandpa's study, Aaron with legal folders, Marcus with financial projections, Evelyn with summit operations reports. I take Grandpa's seat at the head of the table, no longer feeling like an imposter. We need comprehensive plans. I tell them, not just defending against their attacks, but building something sustainable. I've prepared injunctions against further legal harassment, Aaron begins, sliding documents across the polished surface. Marcus taps his tablet. I've secured the accounts and investments with additional verification protocols. Summit's employee meeting went well, Evelyn reports. Once they understood your commitment to maintaining operations and jobs, morale stabilized. We're not just defending, I say, echoing Grandpa's steady voice in my memory. We're building. A soft knock interrupts. June enters, carrying a dusty cardboard box. Found this in the attic storage. Thought you should see it. The box label, in Grandma's neat handwriting, reads simply, "In case of Gregory." Inside lie decades of meticulously organized materials, letters, recorded conversations, financial records, dated and cataloged with my grandmother's characteristic precision. At the bottom, wrapped in acid-free paper, lies a small leather-bound book. My breath catches as I gently lift it out. Is this what I think it is? I whisper. June nods, her eyes knowing. Mrs. Lila said you'd recognize it when the time came. I hold Grandpa Walter's original business ledger from 1962, the founding document of Summit Freight, containing the legal framework that would make challenging the will nearly impossible. Our meeting adjourns with new determination. For the first time since the inheritance bombshell, I feel not just Grandpa's backbone, but my own. A week later, I am preparing to defend what's legally mine and protect my grandparents' legacy. I sit at Grandpa Walter's antique oak desk, running my fingers over the worn edges where his hands rested for decades. The leather chair still holds the impression of his body, a physical memory that comforts me as I lift the phone receiver for what feels like the 100th call today. Mr. Delgado. Yes, this is Hadley Martin. I appreciate you taking my call. I straighten my posture, channeling Grandpa's quiet confidence. I'd like to discuss the expansion of the profit-sharing program for Summit's drivers, effective immediately. The morning passes in a blur of meetings, each one another piece of the plan we've crafted. Summit Freight employees file into the study throughout the day, weather-worn drivers with calloused hands, office staff with curious eyes, mechanics with grease-stained fingers. Each leaves with shoulders a little straighter, eyes a little brighter. My grandfather believed a company is only as strong as the people who build it daily, I tell the gathered department heads. Starting next month, every employee participates in the expanded profit-sharing program. Healthcare coverage increases to include dependents. The education fund doubles. Evelyn hands out the detailed packets, while Marcus projects the financial models showing long-term sustainability. The room erupts in applause, genuine and warm, nothing like the hollow social media applause my mother craves. Dr. Reynolds, I say later, phone pressed to my ear as I review the community needs assessment spread across the desk. The foundation wants to focus first on vocational training scholarships. My grandfather believed in the dignity of skilled trades. The foundation expert on the other end speaks excitedly about implementation timelines. I jot notes in the margins of the assessment, circling areas of greatest impact. My phone buzzes with a text from Aaron. Gregory contacted 3 major clients directly, claiming family concerns about Summit's stability. I exhale slowly, feeling the familiar tightness in my chest. The desk phone rings minutes later. Summit's operations manager reporting that Mom showed up at my school, cornering the principal with concerns about Hadley's state of mind. Principal Kovacs didn't buy it, he assures me. Said your mother seemed more unstable than you ever have. A knock at the door reveals Miguel, his expression grim as he holds a sealed package. This was delivered by courier, no return address. Inside, a thick folder labeled Evidence of Manipulation contains photos of me with my grandparents, annotated with dates and suspicious questions. Email printouts of supposed psychological assessments. Medical records with highlighted passages suggesting my undue influence. I flip to the last page and burst into unexpected laughter. They've accidentally included their own threatening emails to Grandma Lila from last year, complete with Gregory's signature block and legal threats when she refused to transfer property titles. They're getting desperate, Aaron says when I call him. Good thing we anticipated this. The next morning dawns clear and cool as I prepare for the Chamber of Commerce luncheon. Dad had planned this moment for weeks, according to our sources, a public confrontation where I'd be forced to defend myself among the business elite of Gig Harbor. Ready? Evelyn asks as we pull into the country club parking lot. Marcus adjusts his tie. Remember, stay calm no matter what, we've got this covered. The banquet room falls quiet as we enter. Gregory's face darkens when he spots us, his body tensing like a predator preparing to pounce. I feel dozens of eyes tracking our progress to the reserved table. I've barely taken my seat when Dad approaches, his voice pitched to Carrie. There she is, the girl who's destroying our family legacy. Walter would be ashamed of what you've done to Summit Freight. Before I can respond, Chamber President Jack Wilson stands, tapping his water glass. Actually, Gregory, we're recognizing Summit Freight today for 40 years of business integrity and community service. Walter Monroe established this award, and we're honored to present it to his chosen successor. The room erupts in applause as Jack gestures for me to join him at the podium. My legs feel wooden as I rise, acutely aware of Dad's reddening face and Mom's frozen smile. My grandparents built Summit Freight on 2 foundations. I say, accepting the Crystal Award. Excellence in service and investment in people. Their legacy isn't measured in dollars but in lives improved. The standing ovation washes over me in waves. Former drivers share stories of Grandpa helping them through tough times. Charity directors praise Grandma's quiet generosity. The community college president announces the new vocational scholarship program, funded by the Monroe Foundation. Later, Aaron's press release detailing Summit's employee protections makes the evening news, alongside statements from June and Miguel about my parents' treatment of my grandparents in their final years. The effects ripple through town like stones dropped in still water. Gregory's business partners request distance. Mom's social circle excludes her from fundraising galas. Cole's startup investors withdraw after learning of the pattern of financial manipulation. The country club board puts their membership under review. I refuse every interview request, every opportunity to criticize them publicly. We focus on building, not tearing down. I tell Miguel when he brings me the latest invitation from a morning show. The first crack appears 3 nights later. My phone rings at 11:36 p.m. Mom's ringtone. Hadley, she sobs, voice thick with what sounds like genuine emotion. This isn't what I wanted. You have to believe me. I say nothing, letting the silence stretch between us. Your father. She begins, then stops. I never meant for things to go this far. The second crack forms in a text from Cole the next morning. Dad's losing it. I didn't know about the loans he took in my name. Can we talk? Just us? Gregory's attorney calls Aaron the next day, requesting a meeting without Gregory present. They're imploding, Aaron tells me afterward. Their united front is crumbling. That night, I sit on the porch swing where Grandma and Grandpa spent countless evenings, my journal open on my lap. The pen hovers over the blank page before finally touching down. Victory feels hollow when it's family. But what's the alternative? Surrender the legacy they entrusted to me? Allow the exploitation they fought to prevent? The breeze carries the scent of Grandma's roses, planted decades ago but still blooming faithfully each year. Standing your ground doesn't always feel triumphant, but sometimes it's the only way to honor what matters most. A week later, I called my parents for the final confrontation. I position Walter's antique pocket watch on the polished conference table, a silent timekeeper for today's showdown. The grandfather clock in the foyer chimes 10 as car doors slam outside. They're here. Ready? Aaron asks, straightening his tie. I nod, smoothing grandmother Lila's scarf between my fingers. As ready as I'll ever be. Miguel opens the front door, his face professionally neutral, as he escorts my family into the home they tried to strip bare, while Grandma and Grandpa were still warm in their graves. Dad strides in first, confidence faltering only when he spots Judge Elaine Carter at the table. Mom follows, her camera-ready smile freezing when she notices Daniel Brooks, former police chief and Grandpa's fishing buddy, standing near the window. What is this? Dad demands, stopping short. We agreed to a family meeting, not a public tribunal. We agreed to mediation. I correct him. These are the mediators I've selected. Cole slips in last, eyes darting between our parents and me, tugging at his collar. For a fleeting moment, our eyes meet, and something like shame flickers across his face. Mom glides toward me, arms outstretched. Darling, surely we can speak privately first? Family matters should stay within. Family matters should involve actual family, I interrupt, my voice steadier than my racing heart. Please sit down. Dad's face darkens to a dangerous crimson. I refuse to participate in this circus. Either clear the room or we're leaving. We proceed with transparency or not at all, I say, gesturing to the chairs. Your choice. After a tense standoff, they sit. Aaron slides folders in front of each person with practiced precision. Exhibit A, he announces, tapping his laptop. The television screen on the wall illuminates with security footage. Walter and Lila, Monroe's home, the evening after the funeral. The video shows Dad and Cole loading paintings into Dad's SUV under cover of darkness. Mom can be seen carefully wrapping silver candlesticks in her scarf. Cole shifts uncomfortably. Mom's hand flies to her throat. Family heirlooms we were safeguarding, Dad says, dismissively, but his voice lacks conviction. Exhibit B. Aaron clicks forward. Financial records appear, each one highlighting unpaid loans to Dad's failed ventures, totaling over $4 million. Exhibit C. Aaron continues methodically through each damning piece of evidence. Mom's attempt to transfer property deeds while Grandma was hospitalized. Cole's string of defaulted startup investments, recorded phone conversations plotting asset division before Grandpa had even passed. With each revelation, Dad's rage builds visibly. His knuckles whiten around the folder edges. Mom's carefully constructed victim persona crumbles, mascara tracking down her cheeks. Cole stares at the table, shoulders hunched. Judge Carter makes notes without expression. Daniel shifts slightly closer to Dad when his breathing becomes dangerously rapid. Finally, Aaron opens Grandma's leather journal. In Lila Monroe's own words, dated the 14th of June last year, Gregory demanded another $100,000 today. When I reminded him of the previous unpaid loans, he suggested we wouldn't want Cole to know about certain family matters. I recognize the threat. Walter and I have decided, Hadley is our only hope for preserving what we've built. The room falls silent except for Mom's quiet sobbing. You manipulated them, Dad accuses, his voice trembling with fury. You turned them against us. No, I reply, my calm surprising even me. Your own actions are speaking for themselves. I slide a document forward. This is my offer. A small trust fund for each of you, conditional upon returning all items taken from this house, and ceasing all communication attempts with me, or anyone associated with Summit Freight or the Monroe Foundation. Dad laughs bitterly. Or what? Or I press charges for theft, elder abuse, and attempted fraud, I answer. All documented in triplicate, and witnessed by a sitting judge and former chief of police. You've turned everyone against us. Dad explodes, slamming his fist on the table. No, Dad, I say, meeting his eyes directly. Your own actions have done that all by themselves. The grandfather clock ticks loudly in the silence that follows. 10 minutes pass before Dad snatches the pen Aaron offers. The scratching of signatures feels like closing a book. As they leave, Cole hesitates at the doorway, looking back with an expression I can't quite read. For a moment, I think he might stay, might choose differently. Then Dad barks his name, and he follows them out. When the door closes, I exhale shakily. Aaron squeezes my shoulder. Judge Carter nods with approval. Daniel's weathered face breaks into a smile. Walter would be proud, he says quietly. Standing your ground isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about knowing when enough is enough. I touch Grandma's scarf, still wrapped around my neck. I never wanted their money, I whisper. I just wanted to be family. I know, Aaron says. That's exactly why your grandparents trusted you with everything they built. Outside, engines start, car doors slam, they drive away, and something in me knows it's for the last time. I am my grandparents' legacy now, not their money, their values. And some boundaries, once set, must never be crossed again. 6 months after the final confrontation, I still arrive at school by 7:30, my counseling office, a sanctuary of listening ears and steady advice. The brass nameplate Hadley Martin, student counselor, remains the title I cherish most, despite the trust documents bearing words like executor and beneficiary. This morning, a small clipping from the business section sits on my desk. Summit Freight announced record profits under its new employee ownership model. Walter's trucks still rumble through town, but now 68 drivers have stakes in their futures. Miss Martin? My assistant pokes her head in. Your foundation guests are here. The Lila and Walter Monroe Foundation exists on paper and in $12 million of carefully allocated funding, but today marks something more tangible: our first scholarship recipients. 5 students wait nervously in the conference room, clutching acceptance packets. Their eyes widen as I explain how the Vocational Training Fund works: full tuition, living stipends, and guaranteed apprenticeships. My grandparents believed in building things that last. I tell them, now you're part of that legacy. Later, I drive the familiar road to the harbor house. The property feels different now, lighter somehow, as if the weight of secrecy has lifted. I park beside Evelyn's sensible sedan and Marcus's old Volvo. Inside, the dining room table that once witnessed my family's greed now hosts a celebration. June sets out Lila's china, while Miguel arranges Walter's prized chess set nearby. Remember our first meeting here? Aaron asks, helping with water glasses. You could barely speak without trembling. Hard to believe that was the same person who stared down Gregory Martin at the gates. Evelyn laughs. I run my fingers along the table's edge, remembering. Same house, same people, different Hadley. We toast with sparkling cider when Marcus announces the Foundation's first major project, a 3D printing laboratory for the community college's technical program. Lila and Walter would be so proud of what you've built, Miguel says, his eyes misting. That night, I flip through my therapy journal, tracing the path from panic attacks to purpose. Pages filled with grief exercises give way to recipes June has taught me from Lila's collection. Notes on Walter's favorite chess openings occupy margins near pressed flowers from the cottage garden. The old cat, Professor, finally allows me to stroke his ears as he settles on Lila's favorite chair. 6 months ago, he hissed whenever I entered the room. Progress comes in many forms. My phone buzzes with a familiar area code. Gregory's business has finally collapsed, and he needs a small bridge loan. 3 hours later, Serena emails her application for the Foundation's board of directors. Before bed, Cole texts about his newest startup. This one is different, I swear. The pattern remains unchanged. My response does too. Polite, firm refusal. On my 30th birthday, I'm surprised by a gathering at the cottage. No extravagant gifts, just thoughtful tokens, a vintage edition of my favorite book, Seeds from June's Garden, a handmade scarf. Evelyn raises her glass. To choosing your family by their actions, not their blood. Aaron updates us on the permanent legal protections now in place, while Marcus outlines the Foundation's growing community impact. The following Tuesday, a sophomore sits in my office, describing family pressure that echoes my past. They say I owe them, she whispers, that everything they've done was for me. I listen with understanding born from experience. When she finishes, I hand her a carefully prepared packet: therapy options, legal resources, boundary-setting worksheets. Your worth isn't measured by their approval. I tell her, words I needed to hear 6 months ago. At sunset, I walk the property grounds, stopping at the newly planted grove, 1 tree for each scholarship recipient. A small bench bears a simple plaque: Legacy Lives Through Love, Lila and Walter. I open Lila's journal to its blank final pages and begin writing my own entries. Looking up at the warm glow of house lights, I feel a peace that money could never purchase. The inheritance that matters most wasn't in the bank accounts after all. I frantically stuff Olivia's favorite purple dinosaur into her overnight bag, wedging my phone between my ear and shoulder as I zip the compartment closed. Mom, I can't thank you enough for this. The presentation is huge. It could mean everything for my career. I double-checked the list on my phone. Pajamas, toothbrush, comfort blanket, extra clothes, favorite stuffed animal. The litany of toddler necessities for just one night away feels endless. Daniel appears in the doorway of Olivia's room, tapping his watch. Jess, we need to go. Traffic's already building up. I nod, mouthing 1 minute as my mother's voice crackles through the phone. Of course, Jessica. Family comes first, I've always said that. There's a note of something in her voice I can't quite place, but I brush it aside. After 6 years of financial support, surely one night of babysitting isn't too much to ask. We'll be there in 20 minutes, I promise. Ending the call and shoving my phone into my pocket. Daniel hefts the diaper bag over his shoulder. Everything okay? Perfect, I assure him, scooping up our sleeping toddler from her playmat. Her warm weight against my chest steadies my racing heart. Mom will help. She always does when it really matters. The drive to my parents' suburban home fills me with a familiar mixture of hope and unease. Golden afternoon light filters through oak trees lining their street as Daniel pulls into the driveway. In the rearview mirror, Olivia's peaceful face reminds me why tonight matters so much. The promotion would mean better preschool options, a college fund that actually grows, stability. Ready? Daniel squeezes my hand, his eyes reflecting the same determination I feel. I nod, slipping out of the car to unbuckle Olivia while Daniel grabs her overnight bag. My mother opens the front door before we reach it. Her smile freezes when her gaze lands on Olivia's pink duffel bag. What's this? My mother's voice drops several degrees. Mom? Confusion knots in my stomach. Olivia's things for tonight, remember? My presentation? My mother's arms cross tightly over her chest. Jessica, we are not your babysitters. We already raised our kids. The words hit me like a physical blow. I stand rooted to the spot, Olivia drowsily lifting her head from my shoulder. Daniel freezes beside me, overnight bag dangling from his hand. But we talked about this. You said... I said we'd talk about it, my mother cuts in sharply. Not that we'd do it. A burst of children's laughter erupts from inside the house. I step forward, pushing past my mother's attempt to block the doorway. Who's that? Jessica, this isn't a good time. But I'm already inside, following the sound to the living room, where the scene before me causes my breath to catch. My father kneels on the carpet, building a tower of blocks with my sister Haley's 2 children. Haley herself lounges on the couch, scrolling through her phone, barely acknowledging our arrival. What's going on? My voice sounds distant to my own ears. My father looks up, a flicker of guilt crossing his face before he smooths it away. Jessica, didn't know you were stopping by. Haley doesn't even look up. Mom and Dad are watching the boys tonight. I have a killer headache and needed some rest. 6 years of financial support flashed through my mind like a highlight reel. 6 years of $1,600 monthly payments. 6 years of just until we get back on our feet. Years of declined invitations to Olivia's birthday because they were too busy. My first big paycheck at 22, me mother's casual request for grocery money. My promotion dinner where they ordered champagne and lobster. The monthly car insurance I've covered for years, while Haley contributed nothing. All of it crystallizes in this single shattering moment. Daniel steps beside me, his presence solid and grounding. His hand finds the small of my back, a gesture we've developed over years of family disappointments. A silent, I'm here. I see this too. Olivia reaches toward her grandmother, innocent to the rejection. Gamma! I adjust my grip on my daughter, tucking her closer to my chest. When I speak, my voice emerges with a steadiness that surprises me. I understand now. The clarity feels almost euphoric, cutting through years of fog. I've always been your bank, not your daughter. My mother's face flushes. Don't be dramatic, Jessica. This isn't about money. No, it's about value. And clearly, I only have value when I'm paying your bills. I turn to Daniel, who's already gathering Olivia's bag. No words needed. The ride home passes in weighted silence. I stare out the window at suburban houses sliding past, each one containing families with their own hidden dynamics, their own unspoken agreements. Daniel's hand finds mine across the center console, a bridge in the quiet. As we pull into our driveway, something shifts inside me. The hurt remains, a throbbing wound that will need tending. But beneath it, Something stronger takes root, a clarity of purpose I haven't felt in years. Daniel kills the engine and turns to me. What are you thinking? I meet his gaze, feeling the transformation already beginning. I know exactly what I need to do now. The glow of my laptop screen illuminates my face in the darkened living room. Olivia's monitor hums quietly on the coffee table, her soft breathing a rhythmic counterpoint to my typing. My fingers hover over the keyboard, trembling slightly before I steady them. I navigate to my banking portal, the familiar page where I've made endless payments to keep my parents' lives afloat. 6 years of monthly withdrawals stare back at me each one, a small betrayal I inflicted upon myself. You sure about this? Daniel's voice comes from behind me, soft but solid. I nod, not trusting my voice yet. On the screen, I've pulled up the automatic payment for my parents' rent. $1,200 monthly, scheduled like clockwork. The cursor blinks on the cancel payment button. Completely sure, I whisper and click. A warning appears. Are you sure you want to cancel this recurring payment? I've never been more sure of anything. Click. The utilities follow. $240 for electric and water, $180 for their phone plan, $210 for car insurance. Each cancellation feels like cutting a cord that's been wrapped around my chest for years, allowing me to breathe a little deeper with each severed tie. I open a spreadsheet I've created over the past 3 hours since we returned home. Every payment, every transfer, every loan meticulously documented from 6 years of bank statements. The total glows at the bottom of the screen, $115,843. The number doesn't even shock me anymore. What shocks me is how blind I've been. Daniel sits beside me, his warmth steadying as I craft a single text message to my mother, father, and sister in a group chat. From now on, take care of yourselves. I hit send, then methodically block each of their numbers. First my mother, then my father. I hesitate at Haley's contact, then block her too. The act feels both brutal and necessary, like cauterizing a wound. Come to bed, Daniel murmurs, taking my hand. Tomorrow will be a long day. It starts at 6:37 a.m. My phone erupts with notifications calls from unknown numbers, voicemails, text messages from email addresses I barely recognize as belonging to my family. They've found workarounds to the blocks already. I scan through them while Daniel makes coffee, my stomach tightening with each message. Jessica, there must be some mistake with the rent payment. The landlord called saying it didn't go through. My mother's voice in the first voicemail, confusion masquerading as concern. Call me immediately. My father. No pleasantries. By the third voicemail, my mother's tone has shifted. Jessica Claire, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but we could be evicted. Is that what you want? The text progressed from confusion to disbelief to rage. You can't just cut us off without warning. My father's email sent at 11:42 one must have tried calling as soon as he discovered the cancellations. A text from an unknown number I recognize as Haley's backup. Stop being petty just because you're not the favorite. Mom and Dad need help. I set the phone down, my hands steadier than I expected. They've noticed. Daniel slides coffee toward me, his eyes concerned. You okay? I think I am, I say, surprising myself with the truth of it. By mid-afternoon, the battlefield shifts to social media. Daniel's expression is grim when he shows me his phone. You need to see this, he says. My mother's Facebook post glows on the screen, a masterpiece of manipulation. Heartbroken today, my own daughter, who has plenty of money, has abandoned us in our time of need. Without warning, without explanation. Money really does change people. Please pray for our family during this difficult time. 67 sympathetic comments already from people who've known me my entire life. Church members, family friends, distant relatives. So sorry you're going through this, Deborah. Some children forget where they came from. I never would have expected this from Jessica. How disappointing. You raised her better than this. Under it all, Haley's calculated comment. She's always been selfish, even with her own family. It's just getting worse now that she has money. My hands tremble as I scroll through the public humiliation. The coffee I drank threatens to come back up. This is why I told you to document everything, Daniel says gently, taking his phone back. They were always going to do this. My own phone buzzes with a text from Marissa, a colleague who's seen the post. Hey, you okay? Saw some family drama online. Here if you need to talk. Then another notification, a message from Dr. Levine, my therapist. Saw your mother's post being shared. Remember what we discussed about boundaries. This reaction validates your decision. Even more surprising, a message from Katie, my childhood friend who moved away years ago. Your mom's post is making rounds. Just so you know, we all saw how they treated you growing up. Stay strong. I take a deep breath and open my laptop again. What are you doing? Daniel asks as I log into my cloud storage. Assembling evidence, I reply, pulling up a folder I've created called Family Financial Records. Into it, I drag PDFs of bank statements, screenshots of text messages, hundreds of them, all one-sided requests, photos from family events I wasn't invited to, but Haley was. The spreadsheet calculating the total support over the years. Screenshots of every denied request for help, including 3 separate times they refused to watch Olivia for emergencies. Are you sure you want to do this? Daniel asks as I begin drafting my response. I meet his eyes, finding a certainty I've never felt before. They don't get to rewrite history. Not anymore. My fingers fly across the keyboard, crafting the post that will change everything. I stare at my phone screen, transfixed by the tsunami of notifications. My hands hover over the device, not quite touching Ida's if it might burn me. What started as my single post of truth has ignited something uncontrollable. Jessica. Daniel's voice breaks through my trance. You need to see this. He turns his laptop toward me. The comment section beneath my post has transformed overnight. Where there were once accusations of my selfishness, there now stands an army of supporters. You see this? Daniel points to a thread of comments. Your mom's tennis partner, Diane? She's defending you. And look, half your mom's acquaintances are expressing shock. I scan the names, recognizing faces from childhood birthday parties and holiday gatherings. People who've known my family for years are finally seeing behind the curtain. Even Haley's friends are jumping ship. Daniel scrolls to another section. 3 of them have unfollowed her since yesterday. Thank you for being brave enough to say what many of us can't. I've been paying my brother's mortgage for 5 years. Your story gave me courage. Your mother was at my book club last month bragging about her vacation while complaining you never help enough. The hypocrisy. My mouth goes dry. This wasn't supposed to happen. Daniel squeezes my shoulder. Maybe it needed to. My phone buzzes again, the 14th call from my mother in the past hour. I silence it and watch as a text message appears instead. Jessica, please take down that post immediately. Your father's blood pressure is dangerously high because of this public humiliation. Is this how you want him to remember you if something happens? Call me now. The familiar knot of guilt tightens in my chest before I recognize the manipulation. Dad's blood pressure issues materialize whenever accountability approaches. I delete the message without responding. They called my work. I tell Daniel, my voice surprisingly steady. My boss had to have security escort them out. Daniel's jaw tightens. That crosses a line. According to Megan in accounting, Mom was sobbing about how I've had some kind of breakdown. I laugh, but it comes out brittle. Haley's been calling from different numbers since I blocked her. Their landlord called asking if I was still handling their rent payment. Haley's telling people you're having a mental health crisis, Daniel says, scrolling through his phone. Your cousin Ryan messaged me. Apparently she's saying the stress of motherhood has made you unstable, and that's why you suddenly cut them off. I feel my face flush with anger. She's trying to destroy my reputation so no one believes me. And your mother's sister called me, Daniel continues, his voice tightening. She said if you keep this up, we shouldn't expect to be part of the family anymore. Is that supposed to be a threat? I ask, finding unexpected strength in my voice. Being cut out of a family that only sees me as an ATM? The phone rings, again an unknown number. I decline it reflexively. At least we know who our real support system is now, Daniel says, nodding toward his parents' text offering to watch Olivia this weekend. I never expected your mom to step up like this. She said, and I quote, some grandparents actually want to be grandparents, not ATMs. Something warm blooms in my chest, not quite healing, but perhaps it's beginning. My coworkers have created an unexpected buffer too. Jenna intercepted Haley in the lobby yesterday. Marco rerouted calls from my parents' numbers. Even my boss approved a mental health day without hesitation. Family situations can be harder than any project deadline. Take the time you need. I open our banking app, still unused to seeing the balance. The absence of those automatic transfers has created breathing room I'd forgotten could exist. Should we book that weekend in the mountains? Daniel asks, a cautious smile playing at his lips. The cabin with the little fireplace? We couldn't possibly, I start automatically, then stop myself. Actually, yes, let's do it. I think about the daycare brochure sitting on our counter, the one with the music program, an outdoor classroom, that we dismissed as too expensive. Maybe now. My phone lights up with another text. This one from Aunt Carrie. Your mother is distraught. We're all worried about your mental state. This isn't like you, Jessica. Family doesn't air dirty laundry publicly. They're recruiting the extended family now, I mutter, showing Daniel. Are you surprised? Number just disappointed. I block Aunt Carrie's number too. That night, I fall into bed exhausted but with a strange lightness. For the first time in years, I fall asleep without calculating how to stretch our budget to cover someone else's expenses. I don't dream of bounced checks or desperate phone calls. I really sleep for 7 uninterrupted hours. In the morning, I open our banking app, staring at numbers that no longer dwindle to nothing before each payday. What are you thinking about? Daniel asks, sliding a cup of coffee beside me. 3 weeks ago, that daycare with the music program seemed impossible. I gestured toward the brochure on our counter. Now we could actually afford it. I've just run the numbers. Daniel grins. And the weekend trip to the mountains? The cabin with the little fireplace? We couldn't possibly, I start automatically, then stop myself. Actually, yes, let's do it. This is what normal people do, Daniel says softly. They use their money for their own families. I nod, the realization still strange and wonderful. I've booked my first therapy appointment too. Dr. Chen had an opening next week. I wake to 14 new voicemails and a text from the hospital with Dad's name mentioned. My heart contracts painfully until I notice the timestamp. 3:17 a.m. A quick call to the hospital confirms my suspiciono Richard Taylor was admitted last night. Enough. I place my phone on the kitchen counter and look at Daniel. I need a new number. He nods, already reaching for his keys. I've been researching home security systems too. You don't think they'd... I don't know what they do anymore, he says grimly. That's the problem. 3 days later, I'm sitting with my new therapist, Dr. Chen. The guilt is still there, I admit. Like I've violated some fundamental law of nature by not setting myself on fire to keep them warm. She nods. That guilt was installed intentionally. It's their most effective control mechanism. My mother showed up at my office again yesterday. Security had to physically block her. And how did that make you feel? Mortified. Then angry. I straighten my spine. Then certain. I tell her about Daniel confronting my father in the office parking lot. About the cease and desist letter now drafted by a family law attorney. About the locks I've changed and the security cameras we've installed. You're building boundaries, Dr. Chen observes. Not walls, but a healthy perimeter. Later that evening, as Olivia plays with blocks on our living room floor, I open my laptop one last time. My finger hovers over my social media accounts, the battlefield, where this war began. With 3 clicks, I deactivate everything. The silence feels sacred. Daniel sits beside me, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. You okay? Better than okay. I lean into him, watching our daughter stack red and blue blocks into a tottering tower. I'm free. The tower collapses with Olivia's delighted shriek. Without hesitation, she begins rebuilding, this time with a wider, stronger base. I smile at the metaphor life has literally placed before me. Sometimes everything has to fall apart before you can build something that will actually stand. My new phone sits silent on the coffee table. No demands, no guilt, no manipulation. Just the space to breathe, to rebuild, to fortify, to finally live. I stare at my phone, finger hovering over the delete button. An unknown number, but the message makes the sender crystal clear. You've destroyed your family. I hope you're happy with yourself, you selfish bitch. Another one of my mother's friends. I've gotten 6 of these this week alone. I delete it and set my phone face down on the kitchen counter. Through the window, I can see Daniel pushing Olivia on the swing set we installed last weekend, something we could suddenly afford after I stopped paying my parents' rent. The neighborhood gossip reached a fever pitch last month when my parents held a garage sale. Their pristine Italian leather sectional, the one I'd unknowingly financed at on their driveway with a $900 price tag. Mom's designer handbag collection, Dad's golf clubs, the tangible evidence of where my $1,600 monthly payments had actually gone. They're looking for jobs, Sarah told me yesterday at the supermarket, her voice a practice whisper. Sarah, me mother's tennis partner for 15 years, couldn't quite meet my eyes. Your dad had an interview at the hardware store. Your mom's applying at the call center. I nodded, keeping my face carefully neutral as I selected apples. That's good to hear. What I didn't say, it's been 2 months.
It took them exactly 8 weeks to exhaust their emergency options and face reality. What I didn't say, they're in their early 50s, not 70s. They should have been employed all along. What I didn't say, Haley finally had to start paying for her own children's expenses. I drop a handful of cherry tomatoes into the salad bowl, the knife steady in my hand as I slice cucumbers. My movements feel deliberate, confident. 3 months ago, my hands would have trembled with anxiety over what my family might need next. The doorbell rings. Through the peephole, I see Mrs. Lowell from church, clutching a casserole dish. Her expression pinches with disapproval when I open the door. Jessica. Her voice drips with manufactured concern. I thought your family could use a meal, what, with everything going on? Translation. I'm picking sides and it's not yours. That's thoughtful, but we're doing fine. I don't invite her in. We're actually having my boss over for dinner tomorrow who received a promotion last week. Her eyebrows lift. I hadn't planned to share that detail, but the satisfaction of seeing her surprise outweighs my usual privacy. A promotion? That's, she struggles, unexpected. Of course it is. Who would promote the terrible daughter who abandoned her poor, struggling parents? What Mrs. Lowell doesn't know, I'm working 10 fewer hours per week now that I'm not managing my parents' financial crises. My productivity has skyrocketed. My ideas flow uninterrupted by frantic calls about overdrawn accounts and missed utility payments. I take the casserole because it's easier than refusing. Please thank your prayer group for their concern. I know they're praying for me, praying I'll see the error of my ways, praying I'll return to being the family ATM. After she leaves, I scrape the casserole into the trash. Petty, perhaps, but cathartic. That night, after tucking Olivia in, I find Daniel in our bedroom holding a framed photo. It's from my college graduation, me in cap and gown, flanked by my beaming parents. Before their demands escalated, before the monthly payments became non-negotiable. You okay? He asks, catching me staring. I found myself crying over these yesterday, I admit, sitting beside him. Not because I miss them exactly, I miss who I thought they were. Daniel sets the photo in the drawer of his nightstand instead of back on the dresser. A small gesture, but it speaks volumes. We're making space for new memories. The following weekend, I open a dedicated college fund for Olivia. The first deposit, $1,600, feels momentous. Every month from now on, the money that once disappeared into my parents' bottomless needs will secure my daughter's future instead. Gamma? Olivia asks occasionally, her small face curious. See Gamma today? Each time, the question cuts deep. Not for me, but for her. She's innocent in all of this, too young to understand the complexities of adult relationships gone toxic. Not today, sweetheart, I tell her, redirecting her attention to blocks or books or the backyard swing. In therapy, I'm learning this isn't selfish, it's protection. My therapist nods approvingly when I describe enforcing boundaries with the church ladies, with old family friends, with the flying monkeys my mother dispatches to guilt me. You're rebuilding your identity, she tells me. The caretaker role was consuming you. Now you're discovering who Jessica is when she's not responsible for everyone else's choices. Who Jessica is. A woman who sleeps through the night without anxiety dreams about unpaid bills. A mother who's present for bath time instead of on the phone, resolving someone else's crisis. A wife who has energy for date nights. A professional who's being recognized for her talents. The most unexpected consequence. I like this version of myself. Last week, I ran into my high school English teacher at the grocery store. She pulled me into a fierce hug. I heard what happened, she whispered. My sister did the same thing to me for years. Walking away saved my life. I hadn't known there were others. That there was a name for this financial abuse. That the cold clarity I felt that day in my parents' living room wasn't unique to me. I was never the problem. I tell Daniel later that night, the revelation's still fresh. All these years, I thought if I just gave enough, did enough, it would fix everything. He pulls me close. You fixed the one thing you could control, your own participation in their system. Outside, spring unfurls across our small yard. We're planting a garden this weekend. Growing things that will nourish us, that will still be here next season. Roots extending into the soil, boundaries clearly marked with neat wooden frames. The envelope sits on my kitchen counter for 3 days. No return address, but I recognize my mother's handwriting instantly, the looping curves of my name, the slight tilt to the right. For 8 months, our only contact has been through lawyers and mutual acquaintances. You don't have to open it, Daniel says, sliding a cup of coffee across the counter to me. His eyes reflect the same caution I feel. It's your choice. I run my finger along the sealed edge. What if it's another manipulation? Then you close it and throw it away. He kisses my forehead. You've gotten pretty good at that. When I finally tear it open after Olivia's bedtime, the letter inside isn't what I expected. 2 handwritten pages, no accusations or demands for money. Instead, words I've never heard from my mother. Genuine remorse without a hidden agenda. I never saw what I was doing to you. I took and took until there was nothing left, and then I was angry when you stopped giving. I'm sorry, Jessica. I call my therapist the next morning. People can change, Dr. Lynn tells me during our emergency session. But real change leaves evidence. Look for consistent actions over time, not just pretty words when they want something. I draft my response carefully. A coffee shop meeting, public location, clear time limit. When she replies agreeing to all my terms without argument, something shifts inside me. It's the first boundary of mine she's ever respected. Cafe Meridian buzzes with mid-morning customers when I arrive 15 minutes early. I choose a corner table with a clear view of the door and order a black coffee I probably won't drink. My mother appears in the doorway exactly on time, and I almost don't recognize her. Gone is the highlighted hair, the designer purse. Her clothes are simple, practical. She's aged years in 8 months. She spots me and freezes, hand-clutching the strap of a fabric bag that's replaced her usual leather tote. I don't stand, don't wave. She makes her way through the tables, her movements hesitant. Jessica. She hovers by the empty chair. You can sit, I tell her, my voice steadier than I feel. She does, placing her hands flat on the table, then withdrawing them to her lap. The nervous gesture is so unfamiliar, it catches me off guard. My mother has always claimed space confidently. Before we start, I say, I need to be clear. This is a conversation, not a reconciliation. I have boundaries that aren't negotiable. This ends the moment I feel manipulated. I expect resistance, the flash of indignation I've seen countless times. Instead, she nods. I understand. The server approaches, and my mother orders a plain tea. No special instructions, no complaints about the menu. Another unfamiliar behavior. When we're alone again, I don't soften my approach. You took over $100,000 from me over 6 years. You prioritized Haley's children while rejecting mine. You publicly shamed me when I stopped paying your bills. Tears well in her eyes, but she doesn't deflect. Yes, I did all of that. Her admission hits me with physical force. After years of denial and gaslighting, the simple truth spoken aloud feels radical. Your father still refuses to acknowledge any of it. She continues, voice trembling. He says you owed us for raising you. Haley is starting to see things differently, though. The last few months have been educational for her. I take a sip of my coffee, finding it's gone cold. Did you ever actually love me? Or just what I could provide? The question hangs between us, raw and bleeding. My mother's face crumples. I love you, she whispers. I just didn't know how to love you properly. I confused love with what I could get from you. She wipes at her eyes. That's not an excuse. The server delivers her tea. We sit in silence as she unwraps the tea bag, her hands shaking slightly. Even it's a big if we have any relationship moving forward, I have conditions, I say when she looks up again. She nods, waiting. No financial support from me, ever again. Not a dollar, not a loan, not in an emergency. I count the points on my fingers. Daniel and Olivia are my primary family. They come first, always. You'll need to attend family therapy sessions before regular contact resumes, and I need you to publicly acknowledge how you treated me all these years. My mother stares into her tea. I can see the struggle playing across her face, the words she wants to say but is forcing herself to swallow. I understand, she finally manages. It will be difficult, but I'll do it. Dad won't, I state, already knowing the answer. Number. She shakes her head. He refuses to meet or apologize, says you'll come to your senses eventually. A familiar anger flickers, but it lacks the burning intensity it once had. And Haley? She's trying in her way. She asks about you sometimes, but she's still defensive. The family is fracturing along new lines, those willing to face reality, and those clinging to the old dynamic. I find I don't mind the incomplete resolution. Some relationships may never heal, and that's okay. If we move forward, I say, I set the terms. I decide when and where we meet. I decide if and when you see Olivia. I'd like that, she says, hope flickering across her face. To see Olivia again, when you think it's right. You'll need to prove yourself first, I tell her. Regular updates on your progress, consistent therapy. No financial discussions, period. She nods, fingers curled around her mug. I'm working at the community college now, administrative assistant. It's not much, but it's something. For the first time in our adult relationship, I see my mother as a person rather than an obligation. The realization doesn't flood me with warmth or forgiveness, but it does bring a certain peace. She's finally seeing me as a person too, not a resource to be depleted. Time's up, I say, checking my watch. Our agreed 30 minutes have passed. As we stand to leave, she makes no move to hug me, respecting yet another boundary. Thank you for meeting me, she says instead. I nod, gathering my purse. We'll see. Walking to my car, I feel lighter. Not healed, not reconciled, but no longer haunted. Whatever happens next, I'm the one holding the power not out of vengeance, but out of self-protection and hard-won wisdom. Some bridges can be rebuilt, others need to stay burned. Knowing the difference is its own kind of freedom. I trace my finger along the freshly painted wall of our new living room, still marveling that this space belongs to us. A homier home with Daniel's name and mine on the deed. The morning light streams through windows that don't face another apartment building, but instead reveal the small maple tree in our yard that will shade Olivia's playset next summer. Did you decide where you want this? Daniel balances a framed photo in his hands, his expression softening as he studies the image of us from last Christmas, the three of us laughing. Olivia's chubby hands clutching her new stuffed giraffe. By the stairs. I take the frame, feeling its solid weight, where we'll see it every morning. Our wall of photos tells the truth of our family now. No forced smiles hiding resentment. No obligatory portraits including people who saw me as nothing but a walking checkbook. Just the people who genuinely love us. My phone buzzes. My mother's name appears on the screen, not blocked anymore, but carefully managed. Same time Saturday, her text reads, I found a book Olivia might like. I type back, 10 a.m. works. Remember Daniel will be there too. The boundaries hold. 1 supervised visit per week. No financial discussions. No criticism. My mother works as an office administrator now, lives in a modest apartment she can actually afford, and follows my rules if she wants to see her granddaughter. I check my other notifications. 3 new comments on my latest blog post. Breaking the chains of financial caretaking. The support group I started has grown to 37 members, all people, discovering they aren't alone in being used as their family's personal bank. Mommy, look! Olivia races in from the kitchen, proudly holding a drawing covered in purple scribbles. At 3, she already understands more than I did at 30. Last week, when she offered her juice box to a friend, and the child grabbed it without saying thank you, I watched her small face turn serious. You say thank you when someone shares, she told him firmly. I kneel beside her, meeting her eyes. It's beautiful. Should we put it on the refrigerator? Yes, she nods enthusiastically. Can I call Gamma to show her? On Saturday, sweetie. Remember our calendar? Today is only Wednesday. Olivia considers this, then nods. I'll save it for Saturday. No tantrums, no confusion. Children adapt to consistency, my therapist explained. It's adults who fight it. My father chose estrangement rather than respect. Some days the absence still aches. Other days I'm grateful for the clarity. Haley calls occasionally, our conversations cautious but less hostile. Last month, she admitted, I never realized how much you were caring for all of us. Daniel wraps his arms around my waist from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder, as we watch Olivia skip back to her coloring project in the kitchen. The promotion looks good on you, he murmurs, and I feel myself stand straighter. Senior marketing director now, with a salary that makes our mortgage comfortable, and Olivia's college fund grows steadily. Amazing what I can achieve when I'm not paying for 3 extra adults. Tonight I'll be speaking at the community center. 20 people registered for my workshop, from family bank to financial freedom. The slides are ready on my laptop, starting with my own bank statements from a year ago and ending with today's savings report. Evidence of transformation that can't be argued with. What are you thinking about? Daniel asks, because he always knows when my mind is working through something. That I'm grateful, I say, leaning back against him. Not for what happened, but for what I discovered through it. And what's that? My gaze travels across our new home, with its paint we chose together and the future we're building intentionally. I think of my mother in therapy last week, finally saying, I'm proud of who you've become, without asking for anything afterward. That my worth was never in what I could give, I tell him, turning to meet his eyes, but in who I am.